Hey guys, Tommy Carrigan with Tommy Untamed. We've got a great show coming up. Thank you for watching. Baz has been on here a zillion times before, and ARC, the Association for the Recovery of Children. Please go in the description. That clip is at the end of every episode I do on Spotify and Rumble. If you actually want to do something to help stop human trafficking, not some awareness thing, but actually help it, Baz and his people are doing the Lord's work. You can go to the description, you can find that. And then Morgan wrote the book Guns, Girls, and Greed. He's been on here several times. He and I always hit it off, and I know you two have been in touch. And so Morgan sent me something last week, and it was extremely messed up. And but before we get into that, guys, please go to the description. Please go buy his book. Please go give the man some shekels, and you can find all of his socials in there as well. But I'm just like I just said, I'm gonna hand it over to you, Morgan. Can you kind of touch on what you told me with the supply chain, but of children and the guy that drove the bus and all that stuff?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been in the news lately. Tim Holman's talked about it. RFK Jr.'s talked about it. Essentially, under the Biden administration, and I would posit even probably before that, um, they have lost somewhere between 350 and 400,000 migrant children that they brought into the United States. So we have actively, as a country, taken custody of these children, moved them into the United States, and then lost them. And there's something like 85,000 migrant children still missing, I think. And then they found about 13,000 of them. But think about that, 85,000 children. That's enough to fill up an NFL stadium on a Sunday with a football game. Insane. It's probably more than one stadium. But essentially, I came out with the book and I started seeing all these weird job postings for these like fly by night private military contractors, and they were paying good money. They were paying like 4, 5, 600 bucks a day, and they were being in places like Texas, Arizona, New Mexico. And I thought, there's something wrong here. You don't make that kind of money staying stateside. You just absolutely don't. So I started researching it, and it turns out here's what's happening. So a migrant child presents themselves at the U.S. border. U.S. Border Patrol, by policy, cannot retain these kids for more than 72 hours. That goes back to the Biden or the Obama administration saying, oh my God, there's kids in cages. They came up with a policy that said within 72 hours, Border Patrol can no longer have custody of these children. They can't talk to them. They can't fingerprint them. They really can't do anything except get them through the supply chain. Second step in the supply chain, they hired private military contractors, the guys that worked for the CIA in Afghanistan. The name of the company, I'll just name it, is MVM, Mike Victor Mike. And they were moving kids from these border facilities into the United States. Number of ways they were doing this. You may have seen it. It's on X. It's been on like PBS. They could charter flights and they bring these children into these flights, and people say, hey, what are you doing with these kids? Who are you? And because they're a private military company, they just flipped over their name tag and refused to answer any questions. So private military contractors, I don't think you get the grasp of this. Private military contractors, the same ones that we used in Iraq and Afghanistan, are moving children into the United States under a Department of Homeland Security contract, multi-million, hundreds of millions of dollar contracts. So that gets us there. Now here's where it gets opaque. Once they get these kids, they hand them off under an HHS contract. This is why RFK Jr. is talking about it. And under the HHS, there's something called the Office of Refugee Resettlement. These are the nonprofits that you heard about that were moving kids around the United States and across the border. They essentially are supposed to take these children, identify their sponsors, the people that are going to take custody of them, and then hand them off to their sponsors. So what happened is once they got dropped off by the PMCs, the Office of Refugee Resettlement, the Catholic Charities, all those things you heard about, were literally just saying, hey, kid, who's your sponsor? And they'd say, oh, my sponsor is Dan from down the street. And they would just hand these kids off. Some of these sponsors, a lot of these sponsors weren't vetted, right? If you look at the addresses they were putting down, they were for strip clubs, strip malls, parking lots, storage units. I mean, literally no vetting process. And they were handing these kids off to their supposed sponsors. So that's the supply chain. Now, let me take just a quick step back. as the cartels, and this was widely reported, all this is open source intel. This was widely reported. The cartels would go down to South America, they would kidnap children, they would bring them into the United States, and people would say, how the heck do you get them into the US? Well, it's simple. You use the process that the US government is funding, the process I just outlined for you. But at the beginning of it, you look at that kid that was kidnapped and you say, hey, this is your sponsor. When you get to Kentucky or Indiana or Ohio, when they ask you who your sponsor is, you tell them it's this person, this phone number, this address. So what that allowed is these cartels to move these children through the process, have those kids handed back to the cartels, and the cartels would do one of three things with them. They would either extort the family for more money, or they would sell them into sex trafficking, or they would sell them into forced labor. Remember the California weed grow bust that happened like 3 weeks ago? 8 unaccompanied minors were working at that California marijuana plant. And that's how they got them through the system.
I'm, I mean, I mean, it's on one hand, you have to marvel at it. I mean, they're using the system to their advantage. They know it has to be, they know that this has to happen. It's like throwing trash out in the street, knowing that there are street cleaners and it will go here and you can go pick it up at the dump. The obvious side is, yeah, I mean, you want to believe that they're using paramilitary contractors to do good. You'd be like, that's awesome. They're rolling up the sleeves, but it very clearly is not. I mean, this is an industrialized mass scale. Yeah, it's a supply line. It's a manufacturing row of children for it's sex slavery. It's not anything else. What else would it be? Like, what else would it be? You, it would be nothing. It's for sex slavery. And I mean, is this, and this is perhaps my own naivety, maybe Baz, you can comment on that. Is this the road to hell is paved with good intentions? Is it that there's an actual like, hey, it's better that the unaccompanied kids are in the U.S. than below the southern border? Or is this just evil manifest? Not that you have all the answers, Baz, but you probably do better than myself or Morgan.
Yeah, first of all, everything Morgan's saying is already been confirmed. We were the first guys on the ground in Chattanooga, Tennessee, when the night flights were coming in, and those children were being distributed in the same manner. Um, at first, when all this started taking place, I thought that perhaps it was just stupidity. But most recently, as you know, when 47 started cleaning up the swamp a little bit, there were new and more patriotic individuals that went to work for HHS and other stuff. What we discovered is all the data during the Biden administration had been corrupted. Now, why would that be? So you can't find the kids. So now I all of a sudden realized it was all by design. Now, what the Biden administration doesn't know is that we've got people in there uncorrupting that data, and that will be used probably in a court of law to indict them for a number of crimes against humanity, against children. And we're hoping and praying that Cash and Bongino and Bondi and all of those uh, use all the information that people I know are gathering to kind of bring justice. The challenge we have now is that MVM is still operating. Catholic Charities is still operating. We have a guy that's under kind of quasi witness protection who was one of those contractors, Morgan, and we actually have his computer and that we haven't turned over because we don't want that corrupted, so to speak. And so that may show us where some of these kids were taken. But here's what's interesting about that. He took kids overseas as well. So here we go. He's distributing kids in Ukraine. Now, we ran operations in Ukraine during the war to get kids out, particularly orphans, up to Poland and Romania and other places, just get them out of the war zone. And here we have MVM contractors, and he was former agency as well. Contractors shipping kids right back into the war zone. So what's that all about? So when we look at children as a commodity, and this is to answer your question, Tommy, a commodity is something that you purchase and it gets used. All right. So what do we use kids for? Child sex trafficking, child labor, organ harvesting, adrenochrome, child pornography with Pornhub, and the list goes on and on and on. So I have no doubt, based on 34 years now of experience in the trenches rescuing kids and my previous career as a CIA paramilitary case officer, um, that this was all by design, and that what we have witnessed is the largest child sex trafficking um, movement by a president and his administration in the history of our country, which is not only treasonous because there's a national security issue with that as well, but it's a crime. Now, some of the people in the Hill have immunity, but what they don't have immunity is for federal crimes. And this is one of the things I mentioned when I spoke at CPAC couple of weeks ago, that one of the things we have to do, we have to have a federal law that says you rape anybody under the age of 18, you get the death penalty. And I want to make it retroactive, so that all those that are responsible for this heinous crime of shipping children around are held responsible as well. We don't know where they are. You're right. I heard Tom Holman speak. He said they had rescued 10,000 recently. Here's my question. I didn't get a chance to ask Tom. Even with the children we're rescuing, where are those children going? Where are they going? Because there's a lack of transparency with that as well. If they're going back to CPS, we already know CPS has a history of trafficking children, within itself. So CPS is autonomous. They don't answer to anybody. So I'm hoping that that is not where the children are being returned to be honest with you. But for transparency for the American people, I'm hoping they're asking the same question. Okay, all the kids that we're rescuing, and we will rescue over the course of time, maybe the next 3 years, what 47 is in, where will those children go? If they go back into the bureaucracy, if they go back into any government program, I'm of the opinion, based on what I have seen with our government programs, that it's not a great place. So people like Mary Flynn O'Neill, General Mike Flynn's sister, that's starting the Exodus Project, which is to establish new facilities that are not run by the government, that are faith-based, and have immense oversight, are the things that we should be looking at here in America. Kristi Noem at CPAC made a statement, and she's spot on. I mean, you got to love that gal. I mean, her and Tulsi and Tom and the whole crew. Just love them to death uh, for being the patriots they are. But she said, "Do you know, if we could get one church in America, every church in America to sponsor one kid, we wouldn't have a problem." And she's probably right. She's probably right. Now, that's a discussion for another time, getting the faith-based community involved in the
Sure.
anti-trafficking and caring enough. And it is somewhat um, full of hypocrisy, because as we all know, we preach the gospel, and at the same time, there aren't very many churches around the United States that I personally know of that want to get involved in rescuing kids or taking care of kids. And that they'll pay for that one day when they leave this earth. But yeah, not to be too long-winded on it,
No,
but
you're no, keep
the
going.
crimes did exist, and they're still existing. So my question to our audience right now, and it's my question to Washington and to Tom and to Christie and to the Department of Justice: why is MVM and Catholic Charities still operating? My contractor called me up 2 weeks ago and said, I just was in the airport and I saw two other contractors that I worked for escorting a little Latina girl somewhere. So where's that somewhere? And Morgan's right. We do have evidence that they were not taken, many of them, if not most of them, were not taken to family members. But that's what the Democratic Party and that's what the Biden administration wanted us to believe. So we felt warm and fuzzy about it. These kids are going to get a home. They did not. They went to MS-13. They went to the cartel. They went to other gangs. We have a case we were just reviewing 3 weeks ago where 26 kids went to the same sponsor who's not a relative. And guess what? They can't find that sponsor anymore. You know why? Because the Biden administration decided that they were not going to do DNA testing. They weren't going to do fingerprinting anymore. And that's by design. So let's just use some common sense, what we call farmer sense. Okay. It's not hard to grow corn. All right. You plant a seed, you grow corn, you water it, right? Well, same thing here. It's common sense. Why would you not want to keep track of the kids? Why would you not fingerprint them? Why would you not do DNA testing so that you could make sure that they go to the right place and you can follow up on that and that you can find them and help them if you have to, because they didn't intend to do that. So with the 400 and whatever it is, Morgan, maybe 500,000, those numbers obviously change. And then how about the 438,000 American children that were missing before that in our own country? We don't see them walking on the streets. So the question is, where are they? Where are they being held? Are they being held in every basement in America? Are they being held in the warehouse? Are they at the bottom of some holding tank for pharmaceutical companies like they did back in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s? That's the big question. And so we're not seeing record numbers out of the 500,000, at least the UACs. We're not seeing record numbers rescued because we don't have the data to know where they went to begin with.
Yeah, it's kind of there's no, yeah, there's no rocket science behind it. It's like, why are they trafficking kids? Why are they not tracking them? And why is one dude getting 26 people? I get why people might not want to go there because it's a dark place to go, but be it dark or not, just because you don't want something to be true doesn't mean it's not the inevitable answer. Like it's the same reason why, dudes don't go to the doctor. Well, I don't want to have that spot on my arm checked out. It's like, if it's cancer, man. Like, well, I just won't go. That does nothing. It does nothing. So if you want to at least have a chance, a fighting non-0% chance at fixing anything, you do have to look it in the eyes, no matter how dark it is. I mean, I would imagine, just again from me with no experience in any of this shit. I mean, I would imagine that would be a starting point with MVM. Like, why can you not track it through there, or is that just Morgan? From what do you know? Is like, if you went to those guys, is that just like I'm following orders type of thing? Like,
Yeah, which look, the excuse was always, well, if I don't take this job, somebody else will.
keep talking. I'm just gonna fill this up.
And I mean that's the concern, is that with that kind of mentality of, oh, somebody else will do it if I don't get paid, is kind of a bullshit thing to say. But that, I think the larger problem is that private military contractors have become the easy button for the United States government to do all the dirty work. Because I mean, even right now when we're talking, I'm not necessarily blaming. I am blaming DHS. I am blaming HHS. But the names that are popping up are places like MVM and Southwest Keys, and the government figured out that if you outsource these operations to companies like MVM or Blackwater or UG Solutions overseas, it creates an opacity around it to where people can't kind of peek in. And this is what I've been told, is that MVM said, oh, it wasn't our job to figure out the sponsors. And then you drop them off at the Office of Refugee Resettlement and they say, oh, those were guys were supposed to be vetted before they got here. So it allows not only the private military contractors and these nonprofits to point fingers at each other, but it also allows the government to say, oh, yeah, no, that was those bad people over at Southwest Keys, or those are the bad people over at MVM. That wasn't us. When the truth is, it was you. It absolutely was you. You didn't have command and control because you chose to outsource it. The other problem is, with these being nonprofits and private companies, they don't have the same burden of responsibility to be truthful and honest when people ask questions. Like the guys that are walking around the airports and they just flip their badge and they refuse to say anything. There's got to be something in the contract, or there should be, that says if you're going to do this on behalf of the US government, you have to be transparent when a citizen of that United States comes up and talks to you. But they don't have that. So it becomes almost like the Spider-Man meme, right? Everybody's pointing at everybody else saying, oh, they're the bad guy, they're the bad guy. And it turns out, no, all you guys are assholes. You guys are all the bad guys. You guys just need to unscrew yourselves.
And it's I mean, it's the same reason why they use a lot of these companies for, special access programs in the aerospace community. It's really just it's like the actual corporate structuring of proprietary information. You go, oh, that's not U.S. government. That's Northrop's intellectual property. Now, we funded them and they're doing it with our scientists and we're providing the security, but they go, it's proprietary, which, I mean, in terms of just marveling, sure, that's the way to get around the system. But it's not that, hey, you guys are all assholes. You guys are trafficking kids to their death. Like there's a difference. There's like there's like '08 financial crisis where it's like some coked up CEO getting a, platinum Lamborghini. That's bad and you're robbing people. It's another level when you're facilitating the trafficking of children to be raped and then killed and had their organs from like that's such a delineation of like that's kind of dark, what you're a hitman for a gang. This is like center of hell shit. Like and it I perhaps, and Baz, maybe you can chime in on that. I don't know if it's just my own naivety, but I mean it seems like people are aware of this and it's like they're just getting paid. It's I mean I always figured that there was like some level of you couldn't go through with it, but more and more it seems to be like no, there's kind of a price on everything. There are, and I'm with you, Baz. They'll all burn in hell, but like that doesn't help us here. Is I mean, how do you even approach this? Like, how do you even, it's being funded by DHS and HHS, you have these sponsors and they're doing this thing, they're using Border Patrol. And I don't, I have no like delusions that it's like, oh, everyone at Border Patrol is like a pedophile. Like, no, they're probably a dude like me who's just, they don't know the half of this shit, but somebody does. Where do you even begin to? Because, like, what I'm doing right now is absolutely unhelpful. Just saying this is bad. No shit. No, hey, no shit. It's also not fun to age and, have a diarrhea. Great observation, Tommy. How does it even begin to be unwound? Baz, like what I mean, aside from having people in the government, helping, unscrew the information, how do you even begin to pull on this thread?
Yeah, we define success one child at a time, and I think that's what the approach needs to be. Um, it's never Money is never a bad thing. It's the love of money that's the root of all evil. And so one of the components of all of this is money laundering that nobody talks about. We use cutouts. We use places like MVM. The government has used Catholic Charities, uh, tons of organizations to launder money. And then there's the big question: what's the CIA got its hand in with MVM to begin with? You know, the agency is intel collection. So, they have some questions they ask her. Brennan has some questions to answer. Obama has some questions to answer. A lot of ranking people have some questions that have to be answered. But when we look at the problem, and I don't think we can point the finger at the current administration because they inherited all this, and they're doing the best they can right now. But at the same time, while they're doing the best that they can, if we the people aren't satisfied with their progress, then we, the people, have to demand something different or better or whatever. So having Americans get involved in understanding everything from the 14,000-foot level is very important. Not just, okay, there's some kids missing, but where are they missing and why are they missing and who else is involved and where in the global arena is all this taking place and why is it taking place and what senators should be addressing it and what congressmen aren't addressing it, what presidents of the world, whatever it may be. It's huge. This is a multi-billion-dollar industry around the globe for, I think it's probably $350 billion now. And so here's what I find interesting. To answer your question, where do we start, Tommy? When I see these stats and somebody says a $350 billion global industry, okay, somebody had to do the homework to follow the money to know that it was $350 billion.
Yeah.
Okay, so whoever you are that's spouting that out to State Department and HHS and whatever, then you know where the money's going. You know who the people are handling the money. Why don't we start there? Okay, because if they're handling the money, they're complicit in the crime, and that's one place to start right there. Follow the money, you find the crime. And so, whose job is that in America? Is it, well? So hopefully, it's not the IRS's job. It's somebody's job. Maybe it's the FBI. Maybe it's some forensic. analyst or something, financial forensic analyst or whatever we call those guys that, hunt down the money. That's a great place to start. The second place to start is to go to MVM on this one and say, you will show me your records. You will show me. And if they are complicit in this crime or they're negligent or whatever it may be, guess what? You start rolling them up and throwing them in jail. Okay. Here's what I do know about the dark side. It's just like the Democratic Party. They're like a pack of jackals, and when one goes, they start eating each other up. Okay. And that's what'll happen. You start throwing people in prison from Catholic Charities, from MVM. People are going to talk before they spend 40 years behind bars. They're going to say, well, so and so did it. And that's the person I answer to. And then now you have another lead. And then you go after that person and that person. And that's what you have to do with this. And in the process, in the midst of all of that, hopefully, just hopefully, we learn where the children are being held, or at least where most of them or many of them are being held. I suspect at the end of the day, we're only going to find a third of those children that entered the United States because I think the other two-thirds will not be alive. I just, I think their organs will be harvested. I think they will be sold off around the world. Um, I think their adrenochrome will be drawn from their, I mean, they'll create adrenochrome from them. I think we'll see more kids in child pornography. The guys that monitor that stuff, ICE and the FBI, they can tell you right now if there's an exponential increase in child pornography just by all the stuff they look at online and stuff. And so, excuse me, I don't want to, I don't want to, I don't want to, be the bearer of bad tidings, but this isn't my first barbecue. And I think that's why it tears at our hearts so much because this was by design, and it's ugly and it's horrendous and it's inexcusable, and it's crimes against humanity and crimes against children. It's not a political issue. It's the issue is crimes against children, and many of those were not our children in this country. So the ones that we do find, that's another question to ask. What do we do with them? How do we make them good American citizens? We're certainly not going to turn them back over to a country where we don't even know where their parents are. So if we put the right programs in place, then maybe we can turn a bad thing into a good thing. But ultimately, and I think Morgan alluded to this a little bit, is that we have to find them. And I know Tom Homan and those guys are doing the best they can. We saw that latest pitch for more ICE agents, which I think is great. We got, what do we have, Tommy? We talked about 50 million veterans in this country. All right. So we got all the warfighters that have been down range. Look, if they're looking for a job, this is a great job to have. I mean, if it's an honorable job to have, okay? You're going after illegal immigration um, subjects, but you're also looking for children as well. So um, if you don't want to go in the military or you've been in the military and you want to go someplace and keep doing your thing and you don't think you're too old, 60, 70, 80, and you still got what it takes, and get out there and join ICE, and go save some kids. In the meantime, the NGOs that we work with as strategic partners are in the trenches as well and have authorization to go look for children too. So let's see, we'll see what we can do.
You're not being the bearer of bad news. You're being realistic. It does no one any good to say we're going to find all of them. I think finding a third is like best case scenario across the board. Let's just be very real. There's no, there's nothing good about it. Exactly. I would, a tenth. I think if we got a tenth, that would be like a resounding victory. It's just what it is. Look at it soberly, examine the situation. It's and it's evil, and they're probably being raped. We know they're being raped, and they're probably being killed and have their organs harvested. But you have to examine that. You let the shock wear off from what it is. And then, like the first time you go and visit something like New York or Times Square, like you're awestruck. You gotta stay there for a couple days. And you start to see it for what it is. And if you're degenerate like I was when I was 20, then you find the bars and the McDonald's and you just go back and forth. But like you have to sort of let the thing wear off. Now the inverse is also true for pure evil. There is a shock. But Baz, you've been in this forever. So you're not being the bearer of bad news. You're examining it. It's the doctor telling you what it is. Um, it's just, yeah, I don't. That number what Morgan kind of started with is just so absurd. You found 10. If there's 85,000, they find 10. There's 75. I mean, we lost 58,000 servicemen in Vietnam, casualty or a fatality, not casualty. That's less than that. Vietnam is less than that. And where are they? Are they in a country 9,000 miles away in a jungle? No, it's in the United States. Are they soldiers? No, they're children. That is so like beyond unacceptable. I it's I a shameless plug for ARC. Go donate to ARC. But I mean the guy that told you this more like no part I mean, I don't know who that guy is, and I don't mean to throw him under the bus. But, I mean, is it just I mean, it should be it should be very real politic about it. Is it just you're getting a paycheck and it's I mean, your book, and I will shamelessly plug your book, even though it's probably not appropriate for right now, is like, but you go into a lot, and it's some of my favorite conversations we've had about just like the very realistic thing of it is like the pay is good, man. Like, yeah, you might die, but it's like the pay is good. You know it like the back of your hand. You know it's not a bad gig, and because at face value, you go, why would you go over and fight there? And the way you break it down, to me, I think it's just like a very honest, realistic approach to it. It's like you have money in your pocket. You're in your 20s. What do you care? Is that what's going on here? I mean, is it just that applied to this?
Yeah, so I mean, and I talk about like the mentality of contractors, right? Like I make a joke that if you joined Blackwater in 2004, you probably hadn't made the best life decisions before joining Blackwater, and I wouldn't put joining Blackwater as my best, decision that I had ever made either.
Yeah.
But once you start running into that money, you start running into the bills. So it's more money, more problems. I don't
Yeah.
know, but like a lot of these guys have been contracting for 10 plus years, and they have 2 or 3 houses and mortgages and ex-wives, and they're looking for that next paycheck. And for them, it's like, look, this could very well be the difference between me making my bills and
Yeah.
not making my bills. I think it's a piss poor excuse. Don't get me wrong, but that's just the mentality to get to that. Here's what kind of drives me crazy about it, and I'm going in full on hypocrite mode here.
Yeah.
I used to be a private military contractor. When I started with Blackwater in 2004, all the conversation started with, this is a cash grab, get as much money as you can because sooner or later it's going to go away. This Department of State at some point is going to hire a bunch of people that are going to do our job. Maybe there's some of us. They're going to hire these guys and they're going to take our positions. And it never happened. It's been over 20 years. And that's my concern. And that's my hypocrisy, is that all of these organizations, HHS, DHS, Department of State, the CIA, the NSA, the DIA, all these guys that are using private military contractors have had over a decade to hire and train their own people. And what that does is it takes you out of the jurisdiction of, oh, he's a private contractor for a private company, and puts you in the jurisdiction of, you now work for the State Department or Homeland Security or Health and Human Services. And it puts you under that regulatory body, that chain of command. That's why I guarantee that there's a reason for this. It's because they could have done it. They could say, oh, well, we didn't have the funding to do that. Well, that's BS, because you paid all these contractors. You can't tell me that paying these contractors is a whole heck of a lot cheaper than going and hiring and training your own people over the course of 20 years. So it is a concerted effort to continue to use private contractors. Now, here's the great part about it. I mean, it's not great, but now private military contractors are pitching the administration to say, hey, all those guys that we helped bring into the United States, we're also going to help you make them leave. There was a $1.2 billion contract on a base in Texas that just got signed by a private military contractor to house illegal aliens and help move them out of the country. So I think to Bozz's point, if you're taking those kids that we've brought into this country and all you're doing is handing them off to another PMC to send them to another country, fully understanding that they're just going to drop them off and not think about them and come home, are you doing those kids a service, or are you just moving them from one bad place to another bad place where they can also be exploited?
Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food, 72 servings per pail, 25 years shelf life. I've had the owner Clayton on the show before. He's a God-fearing, America-loving patriot. Get one of these, get a couple of them, throw them in your basement. It's good to have it, not need it, than to need it and not have it. If you don't want to do that, you can get their seeds. You can plant your own garden, so you don't even have to keep buying them. You can just get the goods and start your own, or you can even get freeze-dried fruits and vegetables like bananas, apples, strawberries, and raspberries. They support the show. It's an honest product. It's a good safety measure to have, and they keep my show free for you. So I'd implore you guys to please go to heavensharvest.com, use the link in the description, promo code TPC. Axios Fitness Coaching is a premium resource for holistic strength and conditioning services. Axios is best known for the Training Club, capital T, capital C, an exclusive community that prioritizes accountability, technique, diet, and nutrition. Everything you need to do to take action against the decay of the modern world. Whether you're looking to improve your physique, build strength, or just take care of your health and fitness, Axios will provide you with a solution that is effective and simple to execute. All you need to do is complete the intake survey, and you can see if you're a good candidate for the training club or any other of the services. And it's going to sponsor the show. So, one company falls off, another one arises. So if you guys like the show, you want to work out, throw the show a couple shekels. Go take the survey. Thank you so much, guys.
Higher ultraviolet exposure is associated with lower mortality. The United Kingdom is a high latitude and low sunlight country. Researchers there collected data on over 360,000 participants in a study of UV exposure via solarium use. When compared with non-users, solarium users had 15% risk lowered of all-cause mortality, 23% lower risk of cardiovascular mortality, 14% lower risk of cancer mortality, and a 12% lower risk of non-cardiovascular, non-cancer mortality. In other words, all other causes. Quoting the researchers, our study adds to the growing evidence that the benefits of UV exposure outweigh the risks in low sunlight environments. A link to the original publication is available in the box below the video. Get some UV light this winter. Immerse yourself in the tranquility of the blue. Visit a Blue Room soon. www.blueroom.com.
It's like, this is how all word is. Like, it's like when I see like comments on shows I do with like doctors or former agency people, and it's like Tommy's a fed in a show. I'm like, dude, if you could just like subjectively see this, it's like, no, I started this podcast about my parents' garage, and like I'm still figuring it out, and I'm trying to piece it together, and thumbnails and sponsors, and how do I get a couple bucks? Like, there's no like puppet master of I go and get my like my tasks from Langley. Like I have to just be honest and like apply it to that. It's you probably have a bunch of dudes like younger you who are just like doing this thing, and it probably doesn't even look bad on the surface. You probably actually think like, hey, well, they're not on the border. But I mean,
Well, if you're told from the initial that, hey, you're reuniting them with their sponsors or their parents or relatives, you don't have the bandwidth as a contractor to do all the work. You basically do what you're told to do. And in fact, those contractors that have bucked up against the system have been told, look, do your job or you're not going to have you're fired. Okay. And like Morgan's talking about, they have bills to pay and this is their skill set. And you're going to hire contractors because they've been downrange. They have more competence than the average person that you would pull off the street to do this. And most of the time, we and I've been a contractor as well. We just keep our mouths closed and just do our job. That's kind of it. And they know that about us. But one of the things that you look at is that if people are that smart and they know how to manipulate the system, then who are those people? Because those are the people you have to go after. So this isn't Joe Schwash off the street, some pimp that came up with this idea. These are global leaders in the deep state that all got together and said, okay, look, we flood this country with enough illegal aliens. We'll make them all Democrats. And guess what? We'll have the Democratic Party in power forever. Okay. And people laughed at that before. And then it finally came out. Okay. So we know that when it comes to the kids being commodity, exactly. We're going to make money because I will tell you one thing the deep state, they really love making money. They love making money, whether it's on drugs, whether it's on overthrowing small governments, whether it's moving children around, whether it's creating problems and then fixing the problems, whatever it may. If there's a dollar to be made, they're going to make it. So the question we ask ourselves, well, who are those alliances? You're starting to see Tulsi go after a few of those people right now. You're going to find those people are not only going to be brought up on charges of treason, but they're going to have their hands in child sex trafficking as well. They're going to start pulling the layers of the onion back, and we're going to start seeing they had their hands in a lot of stuff. When we talk about the cartel, Morgan was talking about them going and stealing kids and bringing them across. They know they can make money. Now, how did they get the word that they could make money? From their boss. Who did their boss speak to in America that said, if you can get your guys to do this, you'll make this much money? Well, we have people in America. You have that picture I sent you, Tommy? You want to stick it up there?
Which one?
One of Nancy Pelosi with the cartel?
Let me pull it up.
So this is a picture Tommy's got. And when we talk about relationships, this is a question that's never been asked. He's got a picture of a guy named Angel Davalia. And Angel was charged in 2018 for violation of the Kingpin Act, which is basically associating with known narcotics and cartel members. They did a raid on Dell Records. He was head of Dell Records in 2022. And he pled guilty in March 2025, but he has not spent a day in prison. You can go on his Facebook and look where he lives in Southern California. And his sentencing is now going to be in August 2025. So it means that he went unimpeded for 7 years. So see that picture right there? All right. That's the California 40th District Representative Lucille Rabal Allard and Nancy Pelosi with Angel Davalia, the cartel member. I would like Congress to ask Nancy Pelosi what she's doing in that picture. Or why she's taking that picture with a known criminal, a known member of the cartel. So if you look at it, if she's friends or she has an association with people that have other associations with other cartel members out of the country, why would it not lead you to believe that they might have a business deal or could have a business deal or would have a business deal? And so there are many other people just like Nancy Pelosi that are having alliances with cartel members. So with that picture there for the American public, maybe somebody ought to go to their congressman and say, somebody want to explain this? Why don't you, Nancy Pelosi, explain your relationship with this known cartel member who, by the way, has gone unimpeded for the last 7 years since he pled guilty for his crimes in the state of California?
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry,
Tommy, it goes back to durable goods versus consumable goods, right? The cartel loves to get drugs up to the United States, but they are consumable goods. You are going to get one snort or one hit off of this thing or two or five or whatever, and they have to keep replenishing that. A durable good is something that you will use over and over and over again. So the cost of getting a durable good usually pays off a lot more over time, right? So like an avocado coming from Mexico, somebody's going to eat it. You need another avocado. If you bring up a child from Mexico and you can essentially use and abuse them for 5, 6, 7, 10 years and then go and move them along, that's a durable good. And this is what I think people don't understand. Cartels are at their most basic, they are businesses, and they understand the difference between a consumable good and a durable good. And they are trying to get as many durable goods to a place where they will pay off over time. And that is the United States. So anybody that is doing this or has a hand in this needs to just have their ass kicked. Like, we just need to take them outside and beat them up is what I think. But you also need to make the repercussions for bringing those durable goods, those children, into the United States so cost prohibitive that if they try to do it, they weigh the risk versus the reward, and they say, "Look, I can't do this," because here's the problem: the Mexico border was the big problem. We still have a huge open border with Canada, and we're hearing about fentanyl and all this other stuff. But those same cartels work up in Canada when they were smuggling people also at the same time. What's going to change is that instead of getting migrants from South America, they're just going to import them from India, from China, and they're going to bring them across the Canadian border where it's a heck of a lot easier. Plus, you can fly people into Canada from those two countries extremely easy without visas, without tracking, and get them across. So you're kind of playing whack-a-mole to a certain extent. Yeah, we've closed off the border and we're doing a much better job and we're trying to find those children. But how much of that is shifting north? And the capacity up north is not going to be nearly as much as you had down south, but it's still happening to this day. I mean, Boz was talking about it. I went on MVM's website. They still have job postings for youth travel coordinators. And they put it under logistics. Like, oh, you're doing a logistics job. And then you start reading the description and it's like, can you put a car seat in a vehicle? Can you be able to track medications for individuals and minors? Like if you read between the lines, you're literally saying, I mean, it does say youth travel coordinator, but you may as well just put child trafficker. And can you get them into a car seat, drop them off at, a Catholic charity, and then, wash your hands of it and go home?
And I guess I'm the idiot for thinking that there would be some like moral barrier to that, to like, no, I can't do that, because it seems like a lot of people have no issue doing that.
Too many. I mean, too many people.
Like, how do you even deal with it? And I have to be careful about it because technically it's, having a podcast, there's repercussions of inciting violence. But like, it's just for legally, but at what point do you just, I don't want to get myself thrown in jail. I don't have a lawyer. But when it's like that dark, I don't know. I don't have enough.
I'll say it for you, Tommy.
Thank you,
When
sir.
bad things happen to bad people, justice gets served.
I don't know.
And we know that. And if you're working in a
all you mean
broken
by that, but I agree.
Yeah, they're going to raid my house. They won't raid yours.
They don't know. They'll raid mine instead of yours because they know if they raid yours.
There you go. Well, we'll send them to Morgan's place then. But we worked in a broken judicial system and it's still not fixed. Now they're doing a pretty good job of it, and we're seeing evidence of that. But that over, let's say I'm 69 now, so I've had probably close to 40 some years, spending most of it downrange doing different things. And I will say that's enough time in my back pocket to let you know that that's a true statement. When bad things happen to bad people, justice is served. But the question that maybe you're asking is, when does it come time the American people decide to do something about it? Okay. So we're not talking about vigilantes. We're not talking about, taking the law into your own hands. What we're talking about is small town USA. Father has a daughter raped. She's 3 years old, and he kills the pedophile. So what, you're going to send that guy to jail? Yeah, I don't think you should, to be honest with you. So I remember when the first time a father came up to me after I spoke, he said, "Anybody touches my kids," he goes, "I'll kill them." And at first I just sat back thinking, all right, now, that's the law's job. And then as the years passed, I saw that the law wasn't taking care of it. And I came back and I thought, you know what? I can understand why he feels that way, and I wouldn't blame him one bit. So until you send a hard message out to the crime industry that it won't be tolerated, that our children will be protected, that this won't happen on our watch, they will continue to do what they do, when they want to do it, how they want to do it, and laugh in your face. And that's what we had. Not in the last, we had happened in the Clinton administration, the Obama administration, but it happened in the Biden administration. That's exactly what they've been doing, is laughing in the face of the American people, thinking we are this powerful, we can do whatever we want to do, and you're not going to do anything about it. Our Constitution says we the people. And I think 47 understands that. And I think all Americans should understand that. And they should make that message very clear to local, state, and federal law enforcement, and to their mayors and their governors, that if justice is not served to protect our children, we have the right and we will go out and we will do it ourselves. And if you want to come and knock on my door and say I'm advocating for violence, you don't have to be violent when you take care of business. I've taken care of business for many years and I wasn't violent about it. My troops know me. I go, never squeeze the trigger in anger. So are you saying, Boz, that you're saying the American people should go out and take care of pedophiles? I'm saying pedophiles better leave the country before the American people decide they want to do something about it.
It seems to be proliferating in such a way that to have ads like that I imagine are publicly available. Like that's a level of boldness that doesn't happen out of nowhere. That happens in an environment where you know there's no pushback. It takes a long time to get to like the dog doesn't, develop bad habits randomly. It's like that it's been allowed to do whatever. You can tell the dog was never trained. Can you put a car seat? Can you I mean that itself proliferates in a society that permits this.
Well, look, I think maybe the larger question is how do you get the word out that it's happening? The only reason I know about it is because I came out with my book and I started hearing about it and I thought this is. I mean, I thought it was conspiracy theory stuff. I'm not going to lie to you.
Sure.
And then I started researching it, and I've spent over 18 months trying to get somebody to pick this up. 18 months. I have reached out. I ended up publishing an article in something called American Thinker. Is literally the only publication that would touch this thing. Now, American Thinker, good on them. They don't have a huge viewing audience. I finally got the New York Post like 3 to 4 weeks ago to publish something about this also. And I gave them literally every step in the supply chain. I gave them a source down at Border Patrol. Nobody wants to touch this. So how do you get it out to the massive when you have a mass media firewall that's literally saying, I'm not going to touch this thing? Even I talked about it on the radio like 2 weeks ago, and the guy was like, I don't know how much of this I can believe, and it sounds conspiracy theory. And I was like, I have the receipts. I have the job posting. I have the Southwest Keys being charged by the FBI for sexually abusing children that were going through their migrant holding facilities. Like I have all of that. You guys can't say it's a conspiracy theory, but nobody wants to put their neck out because the second you put your neck out, then everybody starts saying, oh, you're one of these or you're one of those, right? Oh, you're just no, look, I'm for the kids.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people will sit there and say, he's a crazy conservative. And then, a lot of people say, oh my gosh, no, he's absolutely this liberal crazy. He's Nancy Pelosi's bastard child. I don't give a crap about that. Like it's the kids. It is not a partisan issue. And we have created a media landscape where they have the ability to ignore this stuff by saying, well, I think this is going to help the left or the right. No, like it's just going to help get the word out.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and Morgan's his articles were excellent. I sent those up to our congressional team. So Morgan, you're probably going to have to go testify before Congress pretty soon. So make sure you get a good seat. I mean, a good suit. Okay, but yeah, I would encourage all Americans to read what he wrote. He sent it to me, spot on, brilliant. One other part of the component of all the dirty deeds being done and how the logistics of it and how it functions, and it was excellent. I mean, if you don't understand the mechanism by the time you finish reading what he wrote in those articles, then you probably didn't graduate from the second grade or something. Okay, you just can't read. It's good. So thanks, Morgan, for writing those up, and I did send those to our team, who are actually up in Congress today and this week, presenting those articles along with the package that we have called the Congressional Accountability Act. And I'm looking to figure out if it's sponsored, but reason I'm going to mention is because you're right, Morgan. I can't even get brave souls in the Senate and Congress to step up to the plate on this. So this is what this was our effort to make sure we never have to go down this road again with people in power that we put in power abusing the system. Imagine if I had a vicious dog outside your door there, Morgan, and I let that dog come in and he mauled you to death. Am I not complicit in that crime for opening that door? Absolutely. So way too long, we have had people in Congress that have been making decisions for the American people, and we have been the people that have suffered the results of that in such a negative way. For example, the open border policy, where illegal immigrants have come into the country, terrorists have come into the country, and who knows who else. And they have raped and are raping our children. And they are establishing cartel business structures here in the country. So knowing that is by the case, people will say, well, maybe they didn't know better. Okay. Well, if you don't know better, then you shouldn't be in the Senate or you shouldn't be in Congress if you don't understand what you open the door to. So if a parent, given the fact that they knew what they were doing, and now your child is being raped, should you not have the right to bring criminal charges against the perpetrator, the illegal alien that's raping your kid? And should you not have the right to go and bring criminal charges against any member of Congress that voted for that Biden open border policy because they were complicit in the crime? And I say, you do. You do. Now, will the Congressional Accountability Act ever be passed there? I don't know, but we're going to keep pushing it because we can never afford to allow this to happen again. People have got to be held responsible for the decisions they make that affect the American people the way this is affecting us. And the reality of it is we haven't even seen how it's going to affect us in the next 10 years, but it will. This wave won't ride itself out in the next 3 years. We're going to have terrorist attacks in this country over the next 10 years. We're going to have drugs, that we've never seen before over the next 10 years. We're going to have missing children over the next 10 years. I mean, it's going to be off the charts because we opened the door and we didn't let one dog through. We let thousands of vicious dogs through. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're tearing America apart.
Yeah, it's well, Morgan, if you can get me the link to your article, I'll put that in the description so everybody can read it. But Morgan, any closing thoughts?
Look, I honestly, I appreciate you, allowing a guy like me to come on and talk about this stuff, right? Like,
Sure.
and I know it seems like for you it's like common sense, right? But I can't tell you how many people that I approached with this story over the course of the last 18 to 24 months that just
They're spineless.
absolutely
They're
ignored it.
spineless and they deserve to burn in hell. It's just what it is. Just call it.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, we have to do something about the use of private military contractors and the opacity for doing America's dirty work. And this is just one of a number of examples that are out there. I mean, the movie 13 Hours is out there. And there's no reason why you should have had contractors out there. You should have had your own guys because you had plenty of time to train them. But let's figure out this part first. For the love of God, these are kids. We need to get them back. Let's figure this part out first, and then we can go after some of the bigger stuff. But it's a shame that it's come to this. I appreciate Boz, man, coming out and saying, hey, Morgan's not crazy. Can't tell you how many times people have said, oh, tinfoil hat. I mean, if you know where to look, it's right there. It's just the problem of getting people to actually look.
And it's what you said. It's like, and man, like, I voted for Trump. People don't like me for that, or you can make fun of me, and vice versa. If somebody voted for, there's always going to be the bipartisan. It's that's the bickering that will go on to the end of time. I get it, and that's whatever builds character. There has to be. There has to. Doesn't matter how small that sliver of the Venn diagram is. There has to be something to where you go, these are kids being kidnapped, raped, and killed. You have there if you cannot plant your feet on that, then like what are you doing on this earth? I mean, real, it's such like a moral layup. Like, do this. This is you can up every other party. You be unfaithful to your wife and gamble and drink and all that. You can redeem yourself. Do something for this. I think God will look at you and be like, you're a up, but that was kind of cool what you did at the end. Like, I think I used this analogy before. This is God giving you extra credit. You know that professor that feels bad from you and you have like a 40 in the class and you need like when I took German my last semester of college and I needed 140 on the final exam to pass the test, but I was getting ready to go to med school and he wasn't about to ruin my life. I had to like write my name in German and he gave me 140 on. That was him saying, "Please don't. Just do something." And so I did something. This is God giving you a layup. Do something right. So Morgan, send me that and I'll put that in the description. I will send this episode to both you guys. It will be up tomorrow, and then I'm gonna send this and hopefully get you guys on another bigger show. So I might have you guys do it together again. I didn't ask you, but whatever. That's what we're doing. And obviously I'll schedule with you guys. But gentlemen, thank you both for your time. Guys, please go grab his book in the description. Get it on Audible. Please go to ARC, the Association for the Recovery of Children. See how you can help. I know there's like awareness tests and stuff. If you can, donate a couple bucks, all that good stuff. Gentlemen, Baz, Morgan, thank you both so much for your time.
Thanks, guys. Morgan, thanks. See you later,
Take care,
All
Tommy.
right,
boss.
guys. Thank
All
you
right,
so
out here,
much.
guys.